Ben,
Jacob,
מה שלומך?
I'm good. How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
It looks like you're opening up a Sirius XM studio with this mic.
Oh, better?
Yeah, I mean it was good with that one too. Like a Tanya broadcaster,
Yeah, Tanya broadcaster.
play by play.
Sin is here. Can you believe it?
Pretty nice.
This letter has a very long note before it.
Really?
It
It's
does.
20, right?
It is 20. Yeah.
What does it say? Do you know?
I do not know. I did not read it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is pretty long. So I'm sure we'll be fine.
Okay,
You want to go first or should I?
go for it.
Ooh.
You want me to go?
איהו וחיוהי חד, איהו וגרמוהי חד, בהון. So, I believe this is Tikkunei Zohar. Etz Chaim, Portal 47, Chapter 12. Ihu v'chayohi chad. He and his life-giving emanations are one. Ihu v'garmohi chad bahon. He and his causations are one in them. Perush. Eser svirot de atzilut chayohi hen haorot. So he's explaining that when we say chayohi, that refers to the partsuf, the 10 attributes of the worlds of emanation. V'garmohi hen hakelim shekulan elokut.
Right. So the Sfirot, there is the kelim, the vessels themselves, but there is the light. So the chayohi is the light that goes into the vessel, is the light within the vessel or that goes into the vessel.
Yeah. They are all divinity. Ma she'ein ken bebriya yetzira asiya cholu. So there is a break between Atzilut. Interestingly enough, Herb dropped a file on my Discord server where they were. It was a beginning Kabbalah class at his local Chabad house, and very interestingly, when they spoke about the worlds, they only spoke about Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. They did not mention Atzilut.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. Atzilut is, there's a break between Atzilut and Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And here he's kind of accentuating that. V'tzarich lahaven heitev, and it's necessary to know this well. Eich ha'ein sof chad im garmohi hen hakelim. You need to understand how the Ein Sof, the infinite, is one with Garmohi. That is the Kelim here of Atzilut specifically. Harei hakelim hen b'chinat gavul v'tachlit, kemo shekatuv b'etz chaim. So when we talk about the Kelim, when we talk about the vessels, we're talking about something that is by definition limited and finite. And when we talk about God Himself, Ein Sof Baruch Hu, Ein Sof literally means without end, without definition. So how can this be? That is another long note, which I'm guessing says pretty much the same thing as I just said. Amna, hakavanahi, but to understand this, the intention is lomar shehen elokut livro yesh ma'ayin kamo ha'ein sof. That tells you that the kelim of Atzilut, the vessels of Atzilut, the attributes of Atzilut, have a aspect of divinity in that they have a capacity to cause something to become out of nothing in a similar manner of Ein Sof Baruch Hu.
The kelim have the property, the capability of doing that?
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, when we're talking about the Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'haaretz v'yomer Elokim tihi or ra'ita or, right? He said, "Let there be light." So, what does that mean that he said? Right? That is the emanations. Those are the attributes of the aseret dibrot of creation are the 10 kelim of Atzilut. Adam asks, is this idea of kelim in Atzilut giving a hint that multiplicity of creation already starts there? The multiplicity of creation already starts above the kelim of Atzilut. So already when you're talking about Adam Kadmon, and that's before creation, right? You're talking about the Igulim and the Akudot, and so in order for there to be anything to talk about, you're already in a world of Hishtalshalut and Tzimtzum. And ultimately, when we're talking about the Kelim of Atzilut, when we're talking about Atzilut itself, we're talking beyond creation and beyond what we can understand. Creating something out of nothing is a capability hidden only in the bosom of the Creator. As our sages of blessed memory expressed it, if all the world's inhabitants were to assemble, they would be unable to create the wing of a gnat and place within it a soul. It is with respect to this that the Ein Sof is one with the Kelim of the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut. Through them, something is created out of nothing. In this respect, the Kelim are divinity.
So would creating a soul, is that the test, so to speak? Is creating a soul, creating something out of nothing?
I mean, the next line, he basically says it. V'lo bebechinat hishtalshalut ila ve'alul levad. So when we say something is created out of nothing, we mean that there's no chain of causation, cause and effect, which flows from it.
I wonder if evolution was there. Is a word they're using there?
Specifically?
Yeah.
In a sense, I think it is. By the time you're talking about Bria, once you're talking in creation, you're already moving beyond, in a very real sense, you've already moved beyond, what you call it. You've already moved. I mean,
from unity, is that what you're talking?
So let's talk about divine simplicity. Have we talked about divine simplicity before?
We have. Can we put a poll?
What?
A poll.
What do you mean?
In the comments.
Ask a poll if the people watching have an idea of divine simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
My brain is stuck on the discussions on the Discord from today. I'm not sure if you were paying attention.
I haven't seen them yet. No.
Okay. So in general chats, Adam gave a very what I think very correct criticism of Eastern Orthodoxy, in that Eastern Orthodoxy says that you can't create icons of the Father, but you do create icons of Jesus. So in that sense, they are admitting that Jesus isn't God. Now, the Eastern Orthodox aren't hugely happy or necessarily aware of this confession of theirs. And so we started talking about, okay, so if it's so clear to them themselves, right? They say they believe in one God, the Father, right? That is the one God. So why are you bothering with everything else? And the answer is, when you talk about divine simplicity, you have to stop talking. When you recognize that God is beyond all creation. I'll give you my favorite analogy, right? So if you have an ant farm and it's in the sun, and you know that all the ants are going to die because it's going to get hot, you move the ant farm.
Mm-hmm.
And all the ants in the ant farm think, oh no, this is the worst thing in the world. And they all start running around. Now go ahead and explain to those ants in the ant farm why being moved into the darkness and having their tunnels collapse, and it's the best thing in the world for them. How are you going to explain that to any of the ants? I dare you.
Yeah, it will be very difficult, almost impossible.
And in a very similar manner, right? So when I give Happy, my dog, a treat, I make her sit and I make her shake my hand, and then I give her the treat.
Yeah.
Now, you have to realize I don't need her to sit nicely, and if she didn't know how to sit nicely, I would still give her the treat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need her to shake my hand. I didn't even teach her to shake my hand. I figured out that this was a trick her former owners taught her, which she likes to perform for treats. And if she were to imagine that, like, how does she understand that I go to the store to buy treats to give to her, right? That these treats mean absolutely nothing to me, and I would give all of them to her, right? And I require absolutely nothing, like, from her whatsoever.
Okay, connect this back for me.
Okay, so when we talk about our relationship to God, right, we're not just like us and a dog. We're not even like us and an ant.
Mm-hmm.
It's some people like the analogy better of a character in your video game and you, right? If a character in a video game were to think that it understands who we are and how we live and how we, the people who or the person who programmed the video game thinks, right? This is another analogy people use a lot of, the author and a novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our capacity to understand God is basically zero. And when you recognize that, right, that your capacity to understand God is basically zero, then the obvious thing becomes, so what am I bothering with?
Right.
Right? Why are we sitting here talking about the Kelim of Atzilut as opposed to the Orot of Atzilut, as opposed to Bria Yetzirah? And what is all this shtuyot?
Right.
Right? And the shtuyot is a little bit like Adam says, you put a piece of food into the ant farm, and maybe the ant understands some tiny bit according to its capacity, right? And that is in essence what we're doing here. We're sitting here, we're trying to understand in our capacity, what does it mean that the kelim of Atzilut have a capacity to create that is not derech alul ve'ilu, right? That is not in a manner of causation, despite the fact that we live in a world where everything seemingly is one thing causes another.
So is this a version of a taste of the world to come?
In a sense, it is. Yeah, it is God in His infinite capacity letting the ants in the ant farm know, hey, I got you. I'm taking care of you. Right?
Right.
And the fact that we have ants, right, is itself a gift of the Creator in helping us understand, right? Helping us understand our relationship to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Verstehst?
Verstehst. I don't know what that means, but I think it means capiche.
It does. Verstehst is Yiddish for get it?
Get it. Evanta?
What?
Evanta?
Levanta, yeah. I think first ich weiß means I understand. I don't. Anyway, my rabbis in yeshiva would say verstehst, so I say verstehst.
Okay.
It's like the ant in the ant farm. I don't understand Yiddish that well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. ולא בבחינת השתלשלות עילה ועלול לבד. Okay? ומה שכתב הרמ"ק עניין השתלשלות עילה ועלול, וכן הוא בזוהר הקדוש פרשת בראשית. And to explain that, so the Ramak was a teacher of the Arizal whose Kabbalistic understanding was somewhat different. And he speaks of there being a chain of development, of evolution, cause and effect in Seder Hishtalshalut. And the Zohar also mentions it in Bereshit. Hayinu behishtalshalut hasvirot besvirot atzman. He's saying that that's the svirot, there being a chain of the svirot relating to each other. Bebechinat hakelim shenikrayin bli ma besefer yatzira. With respect to these vessels, which are termed bli ma, without anything in Sefer Yetzirah, which is one of the older Kabbalistic works to be published. Okay? Mm-hmm. Right? That when we're talking about Atzilut, this is not a category of being, right? This is Atzilut. This is before creation, right? That it's not something that is actually within creation, with the nature. וכמו האין סוף דלית מחשבה תפיסה וכלל. And just like it is impossible to grasp godliness at all, right? Similarly, the kelim of Atzilut are without anything; they're beyond comprehension. וכמו שכתוב, ופני לא יראו. And like it says, the inner aspects of God cannot be seen. Yeah?
I'm with you.
ונבואת משה רבנו עליו השלום בהשגתו הייתה מפרק עליון לנצח דזר אנפין. Like we previously explained, that even Moshe Rabbeinu, who had the greatest capacity of prophecy of any human being ever, right? He received a revelation that's already at the level of Nehi, right? Is already at the level of Netzach of Zer Anpin.
Right, it doesn't come from that or from above.
It is the lower. It is the legs, as it were, of the Partsuf, right? ובהשתלשלות ha'alul hu mukaf meha'ila. And when we talk about hishtalshalut, the alul, before it emerges as a distinct entity, is encompassed by its ilah. So cause and effect are in a sense within one another before they've been expanded and expressed.
Interesting.
And this is an analogy he makes several times. Within the sun itself, light does not truly exist because it is already within that which will eventually emanate it.
Right, I'm trying to think about examples of when the cause and effect or are within each other and they get separated. Obviously, I mean,
maybe maybe this analogy might work for you, which is when we talk about the energy in a rock that's resting in a high place, the energy hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
It's there in potentiality, but until it starts rolling, right? It's that energy is not motive and isn't active and isn't something that can be readily seen, right? So the laws of
do anything with the law of conservation.
Yeah, so the laws of thermodynamics say that you can't destroy or create matter and energy. They are conserved, right? So when I pick this up and hold it here, right, it appears that there's no energy necessarily, but the energy that I expended to bring it up is the energy that when it falls, it expresses.
Yeah, I get it.
כמו שכתוב בפרדס מהרמ"ק. And this is what the Ramak explains in his Pardes Rimoni. ואף גם צמצומים רבים מאוד לא יועילו להיות גשם אב כעפר, מהשתלשלות הרוחניות משכלים נבדלים אפילו של המלאכים. Thus, even numerous contractions, even enough to make the screened light utterly dissimilar to the original light, will not avail to bring about matter dense as earth by way of an evolution from spirituality of abstract intelligences not even by way of an evolution from the spirituality of the abstract intelligences of the angels. There's a qualitative difference between spirituality and what you call
material.
Yeah. RJ says Yiddish lessons are another stream.
Yeah, that's the next thing that we need to do.
Yeah, Yiddish classes. Yes. Okay.
Did I tell you that I found out there are people on my Romanian side actually because they're Sephardic that knew Ladino.
I am not surprised.
So
I am not surprised.
That's another language to think about.
Ladino, believe it or not, I can actually read Ladino because it's basically just Spanish written with in a Hebrew alphabet. I speak Spanish. I can read the Hebrew alphabet.
You're the perfect Ladino.
There we go. There we go.
Latinx.
Yes, Latinx. אלא להיות רוח הבהמה מפני שור. There will only come into being as a result of this gradated evolvement the spirit of an animal that derives from the face of the ox of the celestial chariot. I would say in a specific, like in a more Platonic way, you might be speaking about, okay, so it's possible to create the universal ideal of a cup, but you wouldn't actually be able to create this cup, right? Mm-hmm. Simply from spirituality.
Right.
So Fraud says, when I first started watching Jacob's streams, I asked him what Sefer Yetzirah meant by blima. Took a while to get an answer. I don't know. I still don't know what Sefer Yetzirah means by blima, but apparently the Alter Rebbe does. And this is explained elsewhere. You can go look there. Apparently the Rebbe says in Torah Or. V'yesh ma'ayin nikra bria b'lashon hakodesh. So when we say ex nihilo, yesh ma'ayin, this is what we mean when we say a bria, when we say that which is created, right? Mm-hmm. So in essence, he's saying that the kelim of Atzilut have a capacity to create, which they do.
And the little note there said that the Rambam also uses that language for talking about a similar term of creating.
Okay. How is your Shmona Prakim coming along?
We've had one stream already.
Baruch
Hashem. We've gone through the introduction.
Okay.
So we're going into it now.
If I recall correctly, Rabbi Breitowitz going through Shmona Parakim took him something like 60 sessions.
Yeah, I remember. I watched most of that like a long time ago. So I definitely am.
I still have not even looked at Shmona Parakim, but if you guys do 60 sessions, I probably will not be looking at those either.
No, it'll be shorter. Rabbi Gottlieb also did on Shmona Prakim, but he did it. It's not as long.
Okay, so he did it. So did Rabbi Breitowitz was he was Rabbi Breitowitz like talking about other things, or was this all on actual Shmona Prakim?
I'm sure he was talking about other things. I can't even remember. I watched it a while ago.
60 hours. I mean,
yeah. He does talk about a lot. Yeah, if I listen to his it's a little difficult to listen to his like parasha
Yeah.
conversations because he knows a lot of stuff. So he knows a lot of stuff, so he just brings up a
That's why
little.
I like his Parsha Shiurim, actually. His weekly Parsha Shiur, I haven't
It's
been
very
listening.
dense, so it's much harder. Like that's something you need to sit on. And for when I listen to some of those, it's not necessarily things that I sit on.
Ah.
I can't do that.
Okay. V'hagam shahayesh hanivra hu gam ken kalach asher kameh. Right?
Uh-huh.
And even though we need to understand that all of that which is created is as nothing before God. Tahainu shebatel b'metziut lagabe ha-koach v'ha'or hashofeh abo. Right? That it is essentially non-existent when you compare it in relation to the energy and light that flow into it. Ma'kelim the eser svirut the atzilut bria yetzira asiya shahakav or ein sof baruch hu meir bahem. This force and light deriving from the kelim of the 10 sfirot of all four types of worlds, atzilut, bria, yetzira, and asiya, into which the kav of the infinite ein sof light radiates. Though we are speaking only of the creative force, the kelim of the 10 sfirot that animates created beings, this too may be determined before him. Since within these kelim is found the radiance of Ein Sof Baruch. Okay.
Since this kelim, okay.
Uchaziv Hashemesh Bashemesh. Right, again, this ray of light in the sun itself. Kamo shenitba'er belukutei amarim chelek bet. Like he explained in the second part of Tanya, Hainu kamei davka. When we talk about before God, in front of God, shehi yidiato yitbarach milamala lamata. This is from his aspect of his capacity of seeing, right, from above. Aval b'yediyah shemimata lamala, when we look up towards God, hayesh hanivra hu davar nifrad lagamre b'yediyah v'hasaga zu shemimata. And this is essentially the Alter Rebbe's way of explaining Tzimtzum, which is unlike Tzimtzum Pshuto, right? That he says that it is only from our way of looking at it that it appears to us that this Alma the Shikra has real Yeshut, but before God Himself, it's not so.
So this reminds me, going through Sha'ar Echud Ve'emunah in the Chabad, the local Chabad, and somebody asked a question. So this is really kind of like touches on what he touches on Sha'ar Echud Ve'emunah. And then so somebody asked, is it our nature to see things this way? Like am I, the way you asked it, like, to see the what you said, like the we think we are here just by ourselves or through our own energy or force or through our own being? Is that our nature? So, and is that something that we can't, like, that he was that we could keep on going like throughout life, like we keep, like it will keep bouncing back to that natural state and fighting through it. So okay, so what I told him, and then you can tell me what's going on. But what I told him is that one possibility of how to view that is that in one way it's our natural state, as the Alter Rebbe explains here, but in another way we also have our soul is also part of our nature, and it has a nature, and our part of our goal is maybe to identify more with the soul than we identify with the nature of the body or with the body.
Right. But ultimately, I mean, that is true. But ultimately, the fact is, and this is what the Alter Rebbe talks about, there are specific times during Shat Tefillah,
Right.
During prayer and during real contemplation, when you can actually awaken that um, that level of recognition that God is everything, right? And that God created everything, and without Him, nothing would exist. But as we see, right, this is something that easily falls away.
Right.
So in a sense, I mean, the person you were talking to, yeah, I think he's explaining something fundamental there.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. We all agreed on that.
Okay. Ki hakol hashofea. Well, let's see what Adam says. In creation, it seems that potential and movement are dual aspects, but from what I hear, yesh ma'ayin is pure conversion of potential into motion without the reverse process. No, it's beyond that. The fact that there is a connection between the two ultimately makes it a creation that is yesh me yesh. So Judaism subscribes to the B theory of time, right? So the A theory of time is that time progresses from one to the other, and there's a connection between each period in time. Whereas the B theory in time, which is a crazy idea that I would never even contemplate if it wasn't explicitly taught in Judaism, and it just happens that philosophers also see that this may be, in fact, a way of understanding the world, is that each moment in time is singular. It's not necessarily related to that which was before it. And what I would say is that the relationship between any two moments in time is simply the fact that God desires that there should be such a relationship. Did that make any sense of anything whatsoever?
Honestly, I didn't follow.
I didn't think you would, because I'm not sure I was making much sense at all. The question is one of causation, right?
Yeah.
When I pick up this pen and I start writing, well, and I know that this is a pen and it works, and here I was writing, and so there's a relationship there, right? But is there a relationship there? The question becomes, for somebody who believes in the sovereignty of God, right? So we have a God who knows everything, can do everything, who created everything, right? So is it really that when I decide to write on this piece of paper with this pen, I am actually causing that? Or is there something that is beyond the simple deterministic way? Like, there's a reason why materialists feel so compelled to talk about determinism all the time, right? Because, I mean, if you actually believe that it is the fact that I'm writing which causes that letter to be on this piece of paper, right?
Right. There's an earlier step. There's an early right. I know, like that.
And there's a whole fundamental of creation, right? And so in essence, I think you have to lose yourself. You have to lose your concept of self in order to recognize the enormity of God's creation in a manner that is beyond what I can cause.
Right. Yeah. And doing that obviously without losing, without being
Nihilistic?
or or like just
Well, I mean, ultimately, this is what we mean when we say that human beings were created in the image of God. In that
right.
God gave us this capacity of causation himself, which is an astonishing thing to say.
Right. It's a very difficult sort of. I don't know if it's a paradox is the right word, but I mean definitely. Because in one sense you say it's beyond me, and you're nullified, and then in another sense within you is that force that moves things that you again need to identify with or connect with, which will allow you to become the vessel for, even though you're the vessel for it anyway, right? Because that's what you said. You write the pen, you write whether you identify with your soul or not. So it's like it doesn't matter. But okay, so it kind of reminds me of sometimes when you read about bitachon, about trust or faith, however you want to translate that. So I think an example that it gives, well, it says something about in the Sfirat HaOmer, in the counting of the Omer, when it talks about compassion, it talks about sometimes you don't feel like being compassionate to somebody, but you need to realize that chesed is something that flows through you. So it's not for you. It's not your job to, in some sense, it's not your job to block it or like mitigate it. It's something that flows through you. So there's something like that. And another example that's a little bit more specific is, trying to think about this example if I get it right, but something about somebody, there are two friends, two business partners, and one gave money to the other person and he lost all that money, or the other person kind of embezzled it. So the business partner that lost his money is like I lost my money. Now I don't have enough money for, let's say I lost my money. It caused me to lose my job. And in some sense, so he was talking to another friend that was telling him to look at it in the frame of God will help you get that money back, or in some way. Like you don't know when you're gonna get that back or how you're gonna get it, but it's gonna flow back to you. If it wasn't your fault, or if it's not something that you did bad, like that person had their own thing, and God made that happen, that interaction happen, and then now if you're suffering because of that, that will be in some way corrected, or you don't know how it's going to evolve from there. So that kind of reminds me of what you're talking about. I don't have that example fleshed out, so I didn't really explain it that well, but yeah.
I mean, this, in a very real sense, I mean, it's funny. I've been having a lot of discussions around this. So, like, lots of thoughts are going through my head. Being able to recognize the truth of both positions and a synthesis which doesn't nullify the two things, which is, in a sense, nothing that I do actually matters, and everything is, in a sense, preordained, and it's going to be as it is, da 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 da. And at the same time, the gravity and the intensity and the importance of the fact that I have a capacity to make choices and decisions and actually affect how the world is without losing sight of the both of them at the same time, it's just really difficult. And it might even be, I would say, in a sense, impossible for us to do both at the same time. And that is, in a sense, the ratzo v'shov, the back and forth.
Yeah.
Of,
You know what?
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think that, yeah, there is this paradox, but in some way, if you maybe the variable that helps some people manage that paradox is the people that recognize what God actually wants you to do. So he wants you to make a decision. So with that in mind, how can I resolve that paradox? So if, because I feel like if you're a person that doesn't necessarily think about that, that doesn't take that into account, you put your biases into, okay, we don't have anything to do, okay, so I'll just won't do anything, I'll just stop there, I won't hear the other argument and then dwell on that. Or if you're the person that says, that have a bias towards, oh, it's all about me, I need to make it happen, there's nothing else, it's like, it's just like very individualistic in that way, then you won't wait for the other argument, you won't dwell on that. So there's like this motivation piece that is like almost like a lurking variable that helps you manage the paradox. I don't know.
So, I mean, the more, as the years go on, I become more and more enamored with halachic man and its brilliance. And somebody sent me a Twitter thread where this guy who actually, I mean, traditionally trained Orthodox rabbi, I would say not the greatest and smartest of Orthodox rabbis, but better trained and smarter than me, read Halachic Man over Shabbos, and then he wrote a review of it where he's like, it's incoherent. Like he's just like, not so good. I didn't like it so much. Would not recommend. It's like, you shot at you. The Rav was struggling with something profound in the way that only someone of his towering intellect, who had read, like, he had a PhD in philosophy from, well, the equivalent of it. No, I actually think he finished his dissertation from the University of Berlin, right? And he was also one of the great rabbis, like the great Talmudists, right? So, like, this guy has a brain capacity which is beyond anything I could ever hope for. Like, he's an intellectual Michael Jordan in ways that, like, you're smart enough to be like, yeah, I can't play basketball like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he had involved himself with the greatest philosophical debates and knowledge that is available to humanity, like the greatest thinkers of both Western culture and Jewish everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Halachic Man tries to distill that into a book that I don't think the vast majority of human beings can even approach to read.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I only read it once, so I don't know. I can't.
yeah, and
I only approached it once, really.
and it's like when we started doing this together, right? These streams, which we've done 54 of. It's been over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my whole point was let's reach for. So Elijah's name is actually halachic man. Elijah, like if you mention halachic man, Elijah shows up at a Tanya stream because we know how much Elijah loves Tanya and Kabbalistic ideas. But the whole point of this stream was, okay, let's reach for the top shelf, right? And this is the top shelf. This is
right.
The extremity of my capacity to understand. And what can I say? Kulo kame kalachashiv.
Yeah, and in some sense, like reach for it, and also go through it. Which obviously, like, I mean, if Chezi wants to make a comment of like, he was telling me, I saw you reading going through the Tanya and like some chapter, and so there were so many things there that I want you to go into, and you didn't go into. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean, like, there's so much stuff that I don't understand and don't have time or whatever. I know that I'm not getting even half of it, but I have to go through one. Like, you have to go through it.
Yeah.
So this is also kind of a paradox. I'm like, yes, you're not gonna get it, but you have to go through it. Because, like what we said at the beginning, it's right. It's like the ant and the ant. You're like an ant. Like, I mean, you're one of, like, maybe it's like a small thing, right? And it develops.
Yeah. Yep. We are ants in this world. Okay. Back to Tanya. כי הכוח השופע בו אינו מושג כלל וכלל. Because that force which flows through it cannot be understood in any way. כלל וכלל. וגם אין ארוך זה לזה כלל וכלל. And there's no approximation. These things are qualitatively different. Lo minei velo mikitzate, not a bit of it and not a bit of it. A different way of saying a bit of it. Not meha'erech shemeha'alul el ha'ila. Any sort of resemblance from the effect and its cause. Shaha'alul yodea umasig eiza hasaga be'ilato. Right? So the one who causes, right? The man who moves the ant farm, right? He understands what's going on. Ubatel etzlo al yedei yedi'ah v'hasaga zo. And it becomes nullified in relation to it, the ilah, the cause, through this knowledge and apprehension. וגם במהותן ועצמותן אין הפרש גדול כל כך, רק שזה אילה וזה עלול. Even with respect to the intrinsic nature and essence, there's not such a great distinction, because an ilah and its alul, between an ilah and its alul, except that one is a cause and the other is an effect. V'lo minei v'lo mikitzate. Mehahefresh shebein mahut hayesh hanivra lemahut hakoach v'haor hashofea bo laha'avoto me'ayin leyesh. Yet this distinction neither partially nor minimally resembles the distinction between the essence of a created substance and the essence of the energy and light that flow into it to create it from ayin to yesh. I know there are people who try to make an analogy between the electricity that's powering your screen and like the screen, what's on screen, right? Like there, if the electricity were to cease at any moment, right? Like it would be all gone, completely gone,
Right.
right? ולכן נקרא יש מאין דווקא. That's why we refer to something out of nothing explicitly in that manner. The yesh, that which is created, is from something that is not of it, not like it at all. והנה ראשית היש הנברא ותחילתו הן הכלים ד10 ספירות דברייה יצירה עשייה וגם האורות נפש רוח. So the kelim of the 10 sfirot of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, and also the orot, nefesh and ruach, are the first stage and the beginning of created substantiality. Bria is where it starts. ונבראו מבחינת הנשמה ד10 ספירות, דברייה, יצירה, עשייה, שהוא אלוקות. So we have the various categories of soul, you might say, right? So neshama is that which connects to that which is above, which is beyond. And I think what he's saying here is that the level of neshama, as it is vested in Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, is that which connects it to the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut. Vehen halamed kelim the malchut the Atzilut. And these orot of the Sfirot are the 30 vessels of the Sfira of Malchut of the world of Atzilut. Interesting.
Vessels.
The 30 vessels
Yeah.
are the 30 vessels of Atzilut, because Malchut Korolamim, right? Malchut, kingship, is that which receives from everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 30 vessels, each of the partsufim of the world's Bria, Yetzirah, V'Asiyah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
are included in the Malchut of Atzilut
Mm-hmm.
in a particular way. I hope I'm understanding this correctly. In the world of Atzilut, even the external aspect of the Kelim of Malchut is godliness. It is this external aspect of the Kelim of Malchut that vests itself in the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, and becomes their soul and life force. These external Kelim are composed of 3 tenfold levels: the innermost Kelim, the intermediate Kelim, and the outermost Kelim, 30 in all. Interesting. It seems that the effect can only ponder on explanatory causes. With more evidence, you can learn more, but there's always an unknowable and uncertain connection. Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem, the beginning of wisdom, is an awe of godliness. Because before you can even approach these things, you have to approach them from a level of bitul, a level of self-nullification, which tells you I can't really understand these things.
You have to make space.
Yeah. V'chen ba'atzilut. It is likewise in Atzilut. Mechitzoniut hakelim the 10 sfirot the Atzilut shehen elokut u hahechalot da'atzilut. It is likewise in the world of emanation that the emanated yesh derives from the external aspects of the kelim of Atzilut. From the chitzoniut, the external aspect of the kelim of the 10 sfirot of Atzilut, which are godliness, were created the hechalot of Atzilut, the celestial chambers of Atzilut. Interesting. Unlike the kelim and sfirot, in which there is vested the internal level of the orot, these hechalot are an external aspect of the world of Atzilut. Interesting. This may be the first time I've seriously contemplated the hechalot of Atzilut.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that visually. Because, I mean, you have to, like, I don't know how.
So, I mean, you could think of it as a tree in the garden. And it's the tree at the center of the garden which makes the entire garden a garden, but I'm not sure I'm worthy to talk about this stuff too more than I have. שמתלבש בהם בחינת העיגולים ד10 ספירות. The term igulim, circles, refers to the encompassing mode of influence or makif of the sfirot, which does not permeate the created beings which it illuminates. A penetrating mode of influence or pnimi would make the animated object resemble the life force that animates it. The exterior or encompassing mode of influence, called igulim, by contrast, allows the animated object to perceive itself as a yesh, albeit an emanated form of yesh.
Okay, so we're more of in the category of igulim than.
No. So igulim is we've made the analogy before to background radiation versus visible light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So igulim go through you, they don't interact with you. And as I understand what he's saying, is that the malchut of Atzilut has within it external aspects, vessels which act like the igulim for the rest of creation. In a manner of makif, it's like the background radiation that goes through it without actually leaving a rosha, a hint.
Right. What does it say? Where's the last sentence or last section?
We just
the note. Penetrating mode of influence would make the animated object resemble the life force that it animates. The exterior encompassing mode of influence, called the igulim, by contrast, allows the animated object to perceive itself as a yesh, albeit an emanated form of yesh. Okay, I think I just got confused because the language kind of made me think about the question the question of the person in my Chabad that I told you, that in some sense we perceive ourselves as a yesh, but it's not pnimi, right? Except for the times of tefillah, right? So look, we can't really see the connection. We only perceive it, And I think Steinsaltz was talking about it in terms of the metaphor that he used is a two-way mirror. So from our perspective, it's a mirror and we see ourselves. But from God's perspective, it's like
he just sees straight through it.
Yeah.
וגם גופות המלאכים דאצילות שהן בחינת יש, and even when we talk about the bodies, whatever that means, of the angels of the worlds of emanation, which in a sense are actually created things. וכמו שכתוב, ומלאכיו ישים תהלה. As it is written, Job 4:18, and his angels he charges with deficiency. Interesting.
Yeah, Tanya is like a very, very close to Tehillah.
Yeah. I mean, I would not have been able to translate this myself.
Mm-hmm.
But Job sometimes has very strange ways of saying things. The phrase "his angels" implies those nearest to God, the angels of the world of Atzilut. Yet even these are deficient in that they are yesh and not divinity. שאינן בבחינת ביטול לגמרי, כעלול לגבי עילתו, because they are not completely nullified as the alul is in relation to its ilah. אך נשמות המלאכים שיצאו מזיווג הנשיקין, now we're really going beyond anything I can talk about. By contrast, the souls of angels that emerge from the union of kissing, not going to describe that too much. וכן נשמות האדם שיצאו מזיווג דזה ונוקבה דאצילות.
Did you freeze, or are you just like?
I am contemplating things that are beyond my capacity to contemplate.
Mm-hmm.
קודם שירד שירד. Oh, שירדו. I don't know what's wrong with this page. It's like it's not working very well. שירדו לבריאה יצירה עשייה. Before they descended into creation, אינן בכלל יש לדבר נפרד בפני עצמם. They're not actual substantiality and individual independent entities. אלא הן מעין בחינת אלוקות בצמצום עצום. Rather, they resemble the category of godliness in intense contraction, to the point of being on the level of a neshama. וכאין הכלים בעשר ספירות דאצילות שהן בבחינת גבול. They are like the kelim of the 10 sfirot of Atzilut, which are by nature finite. Al yedei tzimtzum, or ha'ein sof, hu hakav hamalubash b'nefesh ruach neshama shelahem. On account of the contraction of the infinite Ein Sof light, these, I think this is for example.
Vis-a-vis.
It's not vis-a-vis. It's
no.
It's what is it? What is it short for? Latin is short for the Latin videlicet, videre licet. It is permitted to see. It is used as a synonym for namely, to wit, as follows.
Okay, so that's close enough to vis-a-vis.
Sure. The kav that is vested in their nefesh.
Yeah, that's all lost on me. Those three.
Yeah. Well, we'll just read this this note. The restricted diffusion of the Kav that descends into the Kalim lacks the infinite degree of Ein Sof illumination that constitutes the essence of the Kav. It is this contraction that makes it possible for the Kalim of the Sfirot to exist in a mode of limitation, even though their union with the Orot and their nullification to the Orot lends them the characteristics of divinity as mentioned above. And in a similar state are the souls of Atzilut, as still found within Atzilut. However, with regard to the contraction of the Kav that is vested within them, the Alter Rebbe goes on to state that there is not merely a tzimtzum, a contraction involving a diminishment of godly illumination, rather, u'kamo tzimtzum harishon lihiyot chalal v'chulu. Just like the original tzimtzum that occurred in the infinite Ein Sof, a tzimtzum of such intensity that it was able to bring about a void, a space for the existence of worlds, and so on. ואף גם לאחר שירדו הנפש רוח נשמה דאצילות לעולם הזה, לצדיקים הראשונים אפשר שלא נשתנה מהותן לחיות דבר נפרד מאלוקות. And even after the Nefesh Ruach Neshama of Atzilut descended to this world, to the first tzaddikim, it is possible that their essence did not change to become entities distinct from divinity. They remained on the same level as they had been while still in Atzilut. ולכן היו מסתלקות כשרצו לחטוא בטרם יחטאו.
What's an example of a tzaddik that wanted to sin before he could and then he died?
Enoch.
It's a good example.
This follows the teaching of the Tikkunei Zohar that the soul level of Atzilut departs from the body before the person sins. In this spirit too, that source interprets the verse, your sins have separated you from God. Sins cause a cleavage between a soul and its godliness, for sin causes the soul level that derives from Atzilut to withdraw.
By the way, we're probably not going to finish this today because I need to go in like 15 minutes.
This is a very long letter, isn't it? The car of Lomar. Okay, so let's see how far we get, and we'll get as far as we got, and then we'll stop.
Okay.
The car of Lomar Shagam Ha'alafim V'Ravavot Almin Deyatven Gulgalta the Arach Anpen U Zer Anpen. It's reasonable to assume that also the thousands and myriads of the worlds that are in the Gulgalta of Arach Anpen and Zer Anpen, as is stated in the Kabbalah. I would know nothing about that. Einan almin mamash ke'ein ha'echalot da'atzilut u'bechinat yesh. Are not really worlds like the hechalot of Atzilut and a form of yesh. Eila ke'ein nishmot ha'malachim sheyatz'u mizivug ha'neshikim v'nikra'u almin legabei bechinat ha'gulgalta v'dikna.
We need to have a like a Kabbalist line,
Yeah.
like the Millionaire Show or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is the part where we say, we read that and we understood what we understood and we didn't understand what we didn't understand, which was most of it. Ein lanu esek v'nistarot. Ach einan elokut mamash livro yesh ma'ayin. מאחר שכבר יצאו ונפרדו מהכלים ל10 ספירות, שבהן מלובש הקו מאור אין סוף. So basically what he's saying is that it is only the Sfirot of Atzilut which have a capacity to create ex nihilo. שהאור הוא כאין המאור, הוא מהותו ועצמותו של המאציל ברוך הוא, right? Because the light is something of like its luminary, שמציאותו הוא מעצמותו, ואינו עלול מאיזה עילה שקדמה לו חס ושלום. God is ase, right? He's not something that is caused. ולכן הוא לבדו בכוחו ויכולתו לברוא יש מאין באפס המוחלט ממש. Therefore, he's the only one who can actually create out of nothing. בלי שום עילה וסיבה אחרת קודמת ליש זה. No, kav is kav means line. It's not gematria.
I'm actually just gonna ask about the kav because I was trying to. Is kav same as the light?
Kav is the pathway of the light.
The pathway of the light.
Yeah.
Okay, that clears some and obscures other.
Right. So the kav, so you can think of kav as the blueprint of creation.
Right.
It is the lines on the blueprint of creation.
Can you go outside the kav? Is the light so the light flows down on the kav? Can the light go? The light also flows up.
Yes.
And for the light to flow up, it's also on the kav.
Yes.
Can you go outside the kav?
Unfortunately, yes.
Right. Okay. I think we talked about that. Yeah. Or at some point. So I was connecting things in my mind.
וכדי שיהיה היש הזה הנברא בכוח האין סוף בעל גבול ומידה, נתלבש אור אין סוף בכלים ל10 ספירות לאצילות. So in order for this creation created by the infinite power of the Ein Sof should have a limit and measure, the infinite Ein Sof was vested into the kelim of the 10 sfirot of Atzilut. ומתייחד בתוכן בתכלית הייחוד עד דהיהו וגרמו היחד. And that's where there is the greatest unification, and that's why we can say that he and his causations are one. Livro bahen ba'al yadan bru'im ba'alei gvul v'tachlit, right? Through them, then it is possible to then create things which are which have are finite. ובפרט על ידי התלבשותן בבריאה יצירה עשייה, as they are vested into the worlds of creation. אמנם מודעת זאת, however, this is known, שעיקר התהוות היש ודבר נפרד לגמרי, הוא ממלכות דאצילות. But things which truly are separated from God are created through the lowest sphera of Atzilut, שנעשה עתיק דבריאה, which then becomes the crown of creation, כי אין מלך בלא עם וכולו, because it is not possible for there to be a king without subjects, and therefore malchut of Atzilut is the keter of Bria. וגם ריבוי הנבראים והתחלקלותן שנבראו בכוח האין סוף יחיד ומיוחד בתכלית. And the multitude and diversity of the creatures, they were created by the power of one and absolutely uncompounded Ein Sof, hu al yedei ribui ha'otiyot hayotzin mimalchut pi Hashem uvruach piv kol tzva'am, right? So, and ultimately that's why malchut is called mouth, right? Because it is through the mouth that utterances come out. V'hei motzaot hapeh hen mehei gvurot denukva, right? So the five um, sources of speech in the mouth reflect the five capacities of the feminine, which is malchut. The lazot nikret alma de itzkalia kiba nigle koach or ein sof levado yesh me'ain shelo al yedei ila va'alo, and that's why this is called the worlds which were revealed, right? Malchut is called the worlds which were revealed because it is through Malchut that there is revelation. Aval tesha sfirot harishonot ne'etzlu behishtalshelut ila va'alo va'or ha'ein sof hu melubash b'chokhma levada. However, the first 9 sfirot that precede Malchut emanate by the causal evolution of Ila and Alul, while the infinite Ein Sof is vested in Chokhmah alone and moves through the other 8 into the 10th through a chain of causation, like he explained the Zohar and the Ramak said. V'zehu shekatuv na'utz tchilatan v'sofan. And that's what it means when it says that their beginning is wedged in their end, right? Because chokhmah of Atzilut is in a sense wedged in the Malchut of Atzilut, which in a sense is wedged into the Chokhmah of Bria. Ki keter hu memutza bein hama'atzil lanetzalim v'yesh bo bechinat ha'achrona shel ha'ein sof, because keter is that aspect which unites worlds. V'lachen nikra keter malchut. Therefore, it is called the crown of kingship. Ki ein keter ela lamelech, because only a king can have a crown. V'gam ki bechina achrona the Ein Sof hi malchut the Ein Sof, and also keter is called keter malchut because the final level of Ein Sof is the malchut of Ein Sof. Okay. V'lachen gam hamalchut the Atzilut nikra keter mimata lamala. Consequently, malchut of Atzilut too is called keter when the sfirot are considered in ascending order.
Right. So I mean, that last piece is what we talked. Well, what you said before.
Yeah. Oma gam ki briat haneshamot mimena. להיות יש ודבר נפרד בפני עצמה בעולם הבריאה, ונקרא השם לידה, כקריאת ים סוף דעתיקה טליה. And this is especially so since Malchut is what gives birth in essence, like the splitting of the Red Sea, which depends on Atik. Okay, this of the Reed Sea, we're not going to get into. וגם כל גידול הנשמות כל 7 חדשים מזיווג של שמיני עצרת עד שביעי של פסח. Also, the whole growth of the souls throughout the 7 months of the union of Shmini Atzeret until the birth on the 7th day of Pesach. Hu kamo gidul zer anpin v'nukva bebeten ima ilah. I am not even going to translate this. Shehu al yedei orot elyonim me'ima ila'a u'melamala lamala ad ein sof hamidlabesh ba kol tesha o sheva yerchei leda. Not going to translate this. וככה הוא בבריאת נשמות ומלאכים לעולם הבריאה. So in the similar manner is the birth of souls and angels into the world of בריאה. וגם כל עיקר ושורש הטיפה שמקבלת ומתעברת מזר אנפין הוא ממוכן לאבא ואמא ובכל זיווג נמשכת לאבא ואמא מארך אנפין עתיק יומין ומלמעלה מעלה עד אין סוף, רק שהכל בהלם במוחן עד לידת הנוקבה הנשמות והמלאכים והחלות לעולם הבריאה, נמצא שזה גילוי אור אין סוף ממש על ידי העיבור והלידה. Yeah, if you want to go into the details of the birds and the bees of creation, go read it inside.
What would be a good place for us to stop?
I think this would be a good place to start. To stop. Uvazeh yuvan. Now it will now be understood. Yeah, because all of that stuff was stuff that I probably shouldn't be translating to English in public. And stream?
I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
No, I wanted to finish it up with with something a little bit more.
So there are things which are beautiful and at the same time obscene, and you there's a beauty in sometimes taking the time and reading something privately.
Right.
And I highly recommend someone who's actually interested to try to understand these things privately and try to understand what they can understand and know that in their understanding, you turn off the lights when you make out with your girlfriend. That's the best side. With your wife, hopefully. But even with your girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you.